everyone. Like Justin just mentioned, we're going to be covering what's really important step of your business process is setting up your billing to making sure you're collecting all your tax prep fees and the different ways you can even collect those payments. So for today's agenda, we're going to cover you on how to set up your billing. We're going to go over the CrossLink Invoice, which is attached to every single tax return that you do. And then the 3 methods on how to collect your tax prep fees. So that if you don't know, your tax prep fees, those are the fees that you charge for your hard work to do your taxpayer's tax return. So let's get started. What we're going to talk about with your billing setup, whether you're using online or desktop, there are 2 main methods that we normally educate here when you're setting up your billing. That would be a formal billing schedule, which is where you're going to go into our billing setup, and we're going to put on a price, either per form or maybe a few forms, or maybe just a general price that we have. So I'm going to show you how we're going to configure that. And then some people don't like to have a set up billing schedule where you're billing per form, but they just like to use the invoice on each tax return. So I'll also show you how you can set up your pricing just on the invoice when you're working in a tax return. So we're going to be doing both methods today. We're going to be using our PowerPoint, but I'm also going to be using the software a whole lot so you get the full experience of what the setup will look like. Or if you want to open it up, we're going to get started. So we're going to go ahead and open up our desktop software. And to set up your billing setup, you're going to go to the setup menu on the top of your toolbar at the very top, and we're going to go to billing setup. And if you're using our online application, you're going to go to Office settings as well. So all of the setup is always going to be done under Office setup within both programs. Once you open up your billing setup, you're going to see a few tabs on your table here, and we're going to focus on the tab that says Form Billing. Your form billing is where you're going to see a composite of all the federal forms. If you take down the drop-down arrow, we have states. So if you did want to bill on a certain state that you're in or the surrounding states in your area, you can switch between them and put in the prices as well. But for today, we're going to focus on our federal forms. When you have the table opened, it's like an Excel spreadsheet. You're going to have the form name or number, a description of that form, and then where we're going to spend a lot of this time is you have 3 columns here. You have base quantity, base price, and per item. Underneath the per item column is where I always advise. This is where you now want to put that charge for each particular form. So if we want to bill per form, and what that means is when the form gets added to your taxpayer's tax return, that price for that individual form is going to be added to the invoice. So for example, let's fill some out today. So I have here my cursors on the 1040, the individual tax return, and that is what I normally suggest for those offices out there that don't really want to bill per form, but they just want a flat fee on their tax return. Put it on your 1040 here. So I can say if I want $200 on every single tax return, I'm going to put it right there on my 1040. And then from there, we can maybe fluctuate that higher or lower on our invoice within the tax return. So this is the first and probably the easiest method is just using a flat fee. And if that's all you want to do, again, I'm suggesting you just put it on the form 1040, and then I'll show you on the invoice how you can make that higher or lower. Okay. Step number 2, or the second method, would be now adding additional pricing for each individual form that you see listed here. So as we scroll through, you can see we do put it in a really nice order here, from going through your schedules to your W's to your K1s, additional schedules, and then so on in sequential order here. So you can definitely take the time and go through each of these line items. You don't have to have a price in every form. This is strictly up to you. And this here as a disclaimer, a lot of questions we get is, what is an example that we charge? And I just want to put it out there. The numbers that I'm putting in my screen is definitely not an example for us to say, hey, this is what you should charge for your prep fees. You guys know your clients, you know the area you in, and you guys all determine your preparation fees. So again, my numbers are just examples. So I'm going to scroll through. I'm going to put a price here now with some forms here. So I'm just clicking on my per item column. and then you're going to put in a price here that you want to charge. When this form gets added to the tax return, it's going to reflect on the invoice. Now, you may be asking, what are the other two columns here? Base quantity and base price. Base quantity and base price is when you want to group a set amount of forms together. My best example for that is a W-2, because we know individuals can have more than one W-2 for the tax season. So with that said, if I say my quantity, which is the amount of form, so for the W-2s, if I say the quantity of 3 W-2s is going to charge this base price. So I'm going to say that for the first 3 W-2s, I'm going to charge $15, okay? So when I'm reading on a tax return and I add that W-2 3 times, it's going to add $15 to my invoice. Now, if I put in a price under per item, I'm going to put 10. Now, when I add a single W-2 or a fourth W-2, it's now going to add an additional $10 on top of the base price of 15 for that fourth W-2. Okay, so the base quantity and base price go together. It's going to say how many forms do you want to do for this particular form, and then what do you want to charge for that group. And then your per item is when you add just that form singular, and it's going to charge you each time you add that form. Okay, so I'm going to leave that as is. We have a base price of 3 W-2s for $15, and then my per item is going to be 10. And then I'm just going to skip around through here. I'm going to go to my Schedule A, and I'm going to add in an amount here, my Schedule B, and my Schedule C. So you can definitely put in, the pricing that you charge for your most common forms, all forms, if you want to go through the whole entire list. Again, strictly up to you, but we do have all the federal forms here for you. As I scroll down, we have the bank application if you want to charge on that type of form. We have your EIC forms, your due diligence forms. All of that is all through here. So again, you can just go through and scroll through here. Okay. So again, this is under the form billing tab. And I just put our prices in through the table under the per item column. You may ask, what do these other tabs do here? And I'll just quickly explain some of them here. The worksheet tab and the line item tab. These two tabs are going to be for additional items on these forms. So worksheets that are off of the 1040 or your Schedule 1. So these are your federal forms that have additional worksheets. If you want to bill for that particular worksheet, you can, again, put a price under the per item column. Same thing for line items. If you want to bill on a particular line item on the 1040, let's just say alimony paid, and I put in $75. That means when I go ahead and I fill out that line item, $75 is going to be added to my invoice. Okay? Now we'll get into discounts and custom charges. So here, discounts is an area where you can add additional discounts onto your tax return. So instead of you going on an invoice, which I'll show, and having to type it in, you can have preset. These are preset defined discounts, and they're able to be chosen off of the choices, again, that database that we have for you to apply them onto the tax return. So I can go ahead and put in a discount name, and I can say this is a student discount, and you can either put it by percentage or by amount, and I'm going to put an amount, and I'm going to say $40. And then if you want to add in a second discount, you can add in as many boxes as you see there. And you're just going to go ahead and you can say, I'll put an abbreviation for referral. And I can say maybe that referral gets 20% off their tax return. Okay. So these are discounts that you can have in your database to be applied on the tax return. If I go to custom charges, same thing goes applied here, but in reverse. Let's say you have additional services that you have in your office and you want to charge for them as well, such as bookkeeping or insurance, audits for credit, anything like that. You can say, okay, you put the description here, and now you're going to put in what you charge for that. And you can say along the lines of here. You can say insurance. And now this can be added on top of your prep fees. So another way to get, additional money for your services to collect that. Okay, so now we went over how you can add discounts and how you can add custom charges onto the invoice. The last two tabs here, custom settings, is if you did opt in for Protection Plus, you can go ahead and you can manage Protection Plus markups within the software here under your billing setup, and you can also have it auto adding to each tax return. Okay, so that will be done for you here under custom settings. Now that I finished the billing setup of what we went through here, we are going to go ahead and now we're going to click OK. And now it's time for me to make a name for my billing. We want to save it. That was a lot of work, right? You don't want to have to come in each time. So I'm going to call this season 23 and click OK. And now it's asking me an important question. Do I want to default this billing setup to be applied on all of my tax returns? So if you do want a default of this billing to be set for every single return, you're going to click yes. Now maybe let's say you've already done this and your billing comes over year to year and you're listening to this for the first time. Just know you can always change that default billing when you go to Setup, Office Setup. Under the General tab, you have your billing options right here under Season 23 is what I just labeled it. But if I were to add another billing schedule, and you could have as many schedules as you would like, but you can only have one as a default. We do get that question a lot. So this would be your one that's the default. And then you can switch it in between your tax returns or maybe mid-season if you need to. But this is where you can see which one is set as the primary. Okay, so that was a lot. Again, we just covered how to set up your billing. And again, that was under setup and then billing setup. Okay, so that's what we covered there. And then configuring your setup, just as a recap, you go to Office Setup and then Billing. And then we went over the ability to set a standard price for each form, or how you can even add discounts and custom charges on your invoice. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears and we're going to go down to our invoice now on a tax return and what that invoice is composite of. We have three sections of that invoice that I'm going to break down today. The first section is going to be called your description of charges. Again, that's going to show you what your tax return is being charged for your prep fees. We're also going to show you there's a section of the software fees, so this way you can easily understand that or even explain it if you need to your taxpayers. And then we have our discount section. Again, where can you add additional discounts to your tax return? Okay, so this is what we're going to get into now. We're going to go ahead and toggle into the software, and I'm going to open up a tax return. So as you see here, I opened up a return that I had existing. And so far, I've added there's a 1040, my W-2, my 8879. And actually, I'm going to click here on your left-hand side is your invoice. So under my invoice, if you take a note, I open it up here. And at the top is always going to show you your office information and the client's information, so you know exactly, the return you're dealing with. And then right here, you see the description of services / charges. And that's the first section we're going to go over. And this is the fees related to your tax preparation services. And if you take a look, I don't have anything there. And you're like, well, how does that be? We just set up your billing. Well, I actually started this tax return prior to us doing the billing setup. So anytime you have started tax returns and you make a change to your billing schedule and you need to reflect that on a prior return, you actually need to refresh your invoice. So to do so, we're going to go to Return, and we're going to go to Reload Billing. Or if you like using keyboard shortcuts, you're going to go to Control-U. I'm going to do that, and now it refreshed my billing with those updates that we made in our billing setup. Here that you see that now went to a $215 charge for my itemized form billing charges. And that's because I added a W-2, my 1040. So if I scroll all the way down to my invoice, real quick, you're going to see your itemized form billing summary. And it's going to show you a reflection of what you charged. So again, I had the $200 on my 1040. I added a W-2, which was $10 because I only added one, but you can see now that's there. My base price, right, was that. So if I add some additional forms here now, if I add another W-2, and again, I'll just put in some information. Okay, click refresh. And then I'm going to add in, let me see, what else do? We added a Schedule C. We'll add a Schedule C, right? And I'll just put in a little business name here, just so you can see how the invoice will reflect. I'm going to click refresh. Now if I go back to my invoice, now my total charge went up to $415. Again, scrolling down to the itemized so you can see my Schedule C added at the $200 and my W-2 added at the $10. Okay, so now if I add again that third so you can see the grouping of that base price and quantity. Okay, go back to my invoice. Click refresh here, and it stayed $415, but now it did reflect that I have my 3 here at $15. Okay, and if you want to see it even further, just so we understand, I like to make sure everyone understands how that grouping works. Just hit refresh there. Go back to our invoice. Okay, went to $425. And now I added the 3 at 15 plus the 1 at 10. Okay, so the program, very intuitive to make sure it's following the setup that we did under our billing setup here. Okay, so now we went over, that was again, how are we controlling our charges to our taxpayers? So itemized form billing is always going to be in a gray calculated field because that's reading it from the billing setup. But let's say for this tax return, you know, you did extra work here and you want to add a little bit more to this return here. So under the last 2 columns here, or rows, I should say, you can go ahead and you can actually say prep charge. You can call it whatever you like. And now I can put an amount here. And, oh, I put $750, meant to do $75 there. It's going to be a very expensive tax return. But now that $750 charge has been added, okay? And then if you want to add another one, you can do so. So you can increase the price by using those 2 line items right here. This is also where I'm going to switch gears a bit. Let's pretend I didn't have a billing setup, okay? If you just want to come on the invoice and you don't want to use our formal billing schedule, you don't have to. But again, you can go ahead and now type in that prep charge and put an amount there. So those are for those folks that just like to just put in the price per return. It's a very flexible billing schedule you have. Again, just go there and you can put in your description charge and how much you want to charge, and that's perfectly fine using the invoice that way. So that covers here our charges, right? I want to switch down into our second section, which is fees related to software and transmitting. So this here is always going to come in through any of the software fees, the bank fees. So that's always going to be calculated and going to flow in for you right here on your invoice. So that's where you can always expect that. And we do have a key right down here to explain each of those line items. Underneath, we have where it says itemized billing charges, and our first section is discounts. So discounts. That's where maybe you want to take off a little bit of your prep fee and you want to apply a discount here. Well, line 2, it says predefined discount. Under here, you'll click on choices. And then now you'll see here, we have some reflection of those discounts we added onto our billing setup. So I can go ahead and I can apply a student discount, of $40, and now that's going to be reflected on the invoice. And then if I needed to add in anything extra, let's say, you wanted to just give a first-time customer discount, I can go ahead and type that in. And I can say maybe they get another $20 off. And now that's reflected in your discount total is $60. Okay, so this is where you can deduct or offer your discounts to your taxpayers right here. And again, any that are done within that billing setup is always going to be on line 2 of this section under predefined discounts. We also went over how to do extra charges, right? Those predefined custom charges. And as you get it, anything that's a charge to your taxpayer is always going to be in that first section. And we do have predefined charge here. I click on that line item, and again, I can click on choices, and I can add one of those choices that I did within that billing setup. I'll add bookkeeping, and it now reflected the $75. Okay, so that's an overview of our invoice. Here we have our description of charges. We have our software and banking related fees. You have your itemized billing charges. And then now we have a payment section here. Okay, so how does that be? We have a few ways that we can now dive into the last half of this training of collecting payments from your taxpayer. So what can that look like? Is the 3 ways that we here in our CrossLink software allow you guys to manage or collect prep fees from your taxpayers is one is just a recording method. And all of these are actually going to be used under the payments tab within a tax return. So if you're looking at the very top of the tax return, there's a button that's called payments. Once we click on that, you're going to see 3 different options. You're going to see recording a direct payment, which is just logging. You're just recording that your taxpayer has paid you. So it's just for record keepers. Maybe you guys are out there and you already have, you've been in the business a long time and you have your set ways of how your taxpayers pay you directly, but you just want to reflect on their invoice that they paid you. I want to show you how to do that. The second way is that we do offer a new feature this season, and that's called remote invoicing. We do have to partner with PayJunction for remote invoicing, and we're going to get to that in a little bit, but just note it's another way of sending out an invoice via our software, and they can go to your taxpayer via email and they can pay remotely using remote invoicing. And then lastly, let's say you're looking to open up a way to collect charges from your taxpayers and you don't have a credit card merchant service program set up. Again, we partner with PayJunction. So I'm going to show you what that looks like within our software as well. And they offer terminal payments with zero-touch terminals and all of that. So we're going to get to some good stuff now. So let's get back into our software and let's take a look at this. So we finished on our invoice. And I'm showing you here we have our description of payments. And you notice these are calculated fields. Well, how do you get that to reflect here? We have our payments tab. Again, on the top of the toolbar, again, this is all the same methodology if you're using our desktop or our online application. Your process is pretty much the same here. So once you click on payments, it opens up a window here. And you have those 3 tabs. You have payment details, PayJunction, and remote invoicing. So let's get started. Your payment details is just for recording purposes. It does not take a payment. Like I said, some people have been doing this for many years and they already have their methods in place, but you just want to record that your taxpayer has been paid, has paid you. So this here is how you can simply reflect that. You can say who you received your payment from. I can say it's from the taxpayer, Shelly Smith. You can say, how did they pay you? Again, we have options in here. It's been growing. You could pay check, cash, credit card, cash app, debit card. So you can say, okay, they did a cash app. And how much did they pay you for? Well, the net invoice right now showing you is $199. So if they want to put in the full pricing here, you're going to put that in. And then we have a serial number for this record. And then a memo is a note. So again, this is just reading that you are recording that your taxpayer has submitted a payment to you. So if I put in an amount here, say they paid $199, and then you go put in paid by taxpayer, you put in whatever you would like, click save, and now that payment has been recorded underneath the payment of description of payment and credit. So now it's here, and it actually marked that I have a memo and the method that was selected, Cash App. Okay, so now this is just the recording purposes again that my taxpayer has paid this price to me. So this is just recording, but you now say, how do I actually get maybe these things to reflect onto the software? You know, how do I use the other two features? So again, using payments, you're going to now see the tabs of PayJunction and remote invoicing. So remote invoicing is something that we do offer here, that you can create an invoice within the software by hitting create invoice, and then it will email an invoice off to your taxpayer, and they can pay it remotely by that email invoice. You do need to be partnered with PayJunction in order to use these services here. And just to do so, if you do, because we're going to start talking to our PayJunction rep shortly, and I just want to show you some things first. When you are using remote invoicing, or you're using a PayJunction with their full services, and that means you signed up with them, you're using maybe their zero touch terminals and their whole log of the different remote invoicing that they offer, you do have to integrate their system with ours. And all you do is you're putting in these login credentials you get when you sign up with PayJunction. Once you sign up with them and you enter in the credentials here into either your billing setup, or again, another way you can actually reference this is again within your setup, and then we have office setup, and right underneath here you have PayJunction API settings. So this is the way you can formally set up your credentials within the software. And CrossLink Online, you would just go to office settings, and then we have a tab for PayJunction. So very easy to get to and enter in your credentials, but it is required in order to use the payments feature of either sending a remote invoice, which is an email to your taxpayer for them to pay via that method, or if you're interested in credit card merchant service programs and that affiliation and you partner with PayJunction, again, you hit on the PayJunction tab, you enter in your credentials, and then it will be linking you to everything that PayJunction has to offer. So with that said, I think it's a great time for us to now talk with our representatives over at PayJunction. Kyle?
Hey, Priscilla. Thank you for the kind introduction, and as well as for the walkthrough of the features within the CrossLink billing and invoicing system. Again, my name is Kyle Utz. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships for PayJunction. And PayJunction has been a partner of CrossLink since 2020. We've really evolved the technology stack over the last couple of years to really highlight the CrossLink system and meeting the consumer where they are in their payments journey, as well as protecting money and moving money in the right buckets. We are a boutique payment processor that has created our brand of the last 22 years by delivering full service partnerships that specialize in niche market payment solutions. Next slide, please. Our payment technology is built directly into the CrossLink software, enabling end users to utilize the CrossLink wallet to move money and to reconcile payments directly from the software. The authorization and settlement can take place in a card present environment, as well as a card not present environment. So whether the customer is dipping or tapping their card on the payment terminal directly, or if they're processing their payment online or over the phone, we ultimately deliver multiple transaction types to meet your clients where they are in their payment journey. And these are all done with industry-leading security technology, thereby protecting your money. Now, our technology stack was built off of a reconciliation software platform, and our reporting has earned our differentiation in the niche markets that we service. One of the major differentiators in our partnership with CrossLink is that we provide the ability to be nimble and innovate with our technology to make it easier for CrossLink end users to move money in a secure fashion. Now, this is demonstrated through our web ACH functionality, enabling you to move money more safely and efficiently. For example, with the split payments feature, the customer pays the technology fee and the prep fees go directly to you, thereby moving money in the proper buckets and causing less reconciliation headaches for you in your busy tax season. Another feature that provides an additional layer of security is our cards on file feature that will tokenize the card after payment, thereby creating a customer record with masked credit card information, allowing that customer to pay with the same payment type or to add a new payment type in a subsequent payment. Next slide, please, Priscilla. Now, through our partnership, we provide confidence in the payments endorsement with our commitment to earn your business month to month through the active tax season or year round if you have more robust payment needs. Additionally, our transparent and ethical pricing ensures that we are delivering our technology to you at no additional cost in processing fees. Well, how do you get started? Next slide, please, Priscilla. I'm glad you asked. You can go directly to our website and fill out your business details to initiate the conversation, or call us directly into our account boarding team. Will hold you through the process to engage the CrossLink software and activate our API. Alternatively, you can speak to your account manager at CrossLink for additional detail. Either way, we are here to assist your business in protecting your money and moving your money through our direct integration into the CrossLink software. Thank you very much for your time today, and I'll pass it back to you, Priscilla.
Thank you, Kyle. So today, there's great information we hear from PayJunction. Definitely, very useful. Again, I'll just show you what that looks like in our software. Integration is very seamless. Again, it's just putting in those API credentials into the software, and then you can go ahead and use your terminals with them or our remote invoicing feature. So with that today, that concludes what I have showing you on how to use your billing setup and how to manage it on your invoice within the tax return.